Bitcoin is trading at 68,500 and it is time to do an update on the monthly close. Now it's already June the 3rd, so it's a little bit into the new month already, but nevertheless, let's take a look at the monthly Bitcoin chart, also the weekly close, which we've just had, and what that reveals for the potential price action for June and the coming weeks and months ahead. So I'm going to dive straight into the Bitcoin monthly return. So May closed at a positive 11.07%. So we had a green May, which is nice to see and not really out of the ordinary. As you can see here on this chart going back to 2013, there are quite a bit of green Mays. Now, what is interesting to see is that out of all the previous green May months, right? So we have here 2014, 2016, 2017, 2019 and 2020. So there's literally 5 years in which the month of May was green since 2013. And out of those 5, you can see here, the June that followed was also green 4 out of the 5 times. So based on the data that we have, which is approximately 10 years, out of the 5 times that May was green, we had 4 times that June also was green. So we have an 80% chance based on this data that June is going to be green. And hopefully that's going to repeat once again this month. Now, if we go and look at the monthly chart of what Bitcoin did, you can see that was a nice green month, 11% gain for the month, but also look at the candle close. So the candle closed at $67,477. So April had this red month, which kind of looked bearish. We didn't see follow through, and instead we had this nice green month in May, which is good because you can see over here, it's actually happening here. If you look at the bodies, the body closes on the monthly chart, you can see those were wicks, yes, to 69,000, but the body close was just about 60.5. So what we've been doing here potentially is we broke to new all-time highs, and we've just been consolidating here above the previous cycle highs, have now potentially become support here, building a base for reaccumulation for hopefully what's going to be continuation into later in the year, hopefully $100,000 plus Bitcoin. So based on this monthly candle last month, I would say also there's a very decent chance we see continuation. And what I'm looking for here is simply as long as Bitcoin stays above this level, the $60,000 level, I think we're just building a base and we can eventually go higher. Now, this year is also the election year in the US, across the world, also multiple countries holding elections this year, which means that maybe they're going to do everything they can to not crash the markets this year, to prevent rate cuts and postpone that into next year, and hopefully try and pump everything up as much as possible. Ideally, that's what we want to see. So we're still just taking it a month at a time, a week at a time, with an if-then framework. The idea being that as long as Bitcoin stays above the 3-day 50 moving average, which by the way is getting very close to this $60,000 level at this point. It's about 59,000, it's about around about over here. So this is basically the line in the sand for me for now. Say about 58,000, 59,000, maybe 60,000, somewhere around there. Let's call it 58 to be safe. As long as price stays above there, I am expecting higher. And if Bitcoin can start to move to new all-time highs and really start getting to 85, 90, maybe even $100,000, I think we see all the euphoria come back into the markets and we see a crazy party in the crypto space. Now, just changing this to a weekly outlook, you can see over here also that same line that I had here on a monthly. You can see it was actually just a wick below here. That's all it was. And it's been holding a support. So it's very clear here on the chart. This is the level that we're watching. If we lose this level, so say about 60,000, if we start closing there and get weekly closes below it, I would start to get cautious for more downside. Until then though, this is potentially here reaccumulation for support and waiting for a breakout and continuation higher. Let's take a look at Ethereum because that is back at 3,800. We have had the ETF approvals, so those have been approved, 8 of them by the SEC. So we are going to get those in the near future. They're not yet live, so they're not actually trading yet. But once they go live, we could start to see a lot more inflow into Ethereum also. And this chart just looks really, really bullish, even more bullish than Bitcoin, simply because look at last month's candle. Instead of it being a smaller green candle like we saw with Bitcoin, still bullish, but smaller, this specific candle here with Ethereum, you can see it actually completely engulfed the red candle over here. So it completely like swallowed it up. It's bigger than the previous month's red candle. And now we have this green candle here in May. And that is a bullish engulfing candle, which a lot of the time, just based on the technicals on this specific type of pattern, it usually results in continuation to the upside as we're currently seeing here. And I would expect that very much the target is still at least the previous all-time high. So that was, the wick was here at about 4,900. I think we see $5,000 plus Ethereum. And I think we could actually end up seeing that pretty quickly, maybe within the next 1 to 3 months. It really depends on how things go. If we see this bullish continuation and things go nuts in June, who knows? Maybe it just pumps straight up there in June. But I would say 3 months to be cautious. I think that is a reasonable time frame with a decent chance of actually hitting that all-time high. Remember, Bitcoin has already hit the previous cycle all-time high. So for Ethereum to be lagging behind is natural. It normally happens first. Bitcoin moves, then Ethereum moves. But I would say that this is going to be a likely target over here, the previous all-time high, and probably beyond. So again, does that mean you should go and leverage long 100x over here? No, because it could still drop within the month, right? It could still drop a couple $100. It could drop back to 3,500 or 3,300. And in that case, if you're highly leveraged long right now, you would obviously get liquidated. But the idea is, because the higher time frame looks bullish, the higher time frame trend has been bullish since 2023, and there's that continuation that I think there's a decent probability it hits the all-time high or higher. What I'd be looking for this month is on any type of pullbacks on lower time frames. I would be looking for longs on Ethereum targeting 4,800 and beyond. And then finally, let's take a quick look at the total crypto market cap, which is a market cap of Bitcoin combined with all the other altcoins. And you can see over here, this is also consolidating very, very nicely. So we had this break of this previous high over here. It pulled back exactly where it acted now as support, right, for the pullback, and we bounced from it. And here, simply, I think the target is also just the previous all-time high over here, and hopefully beyond, right? Because of every cycle, it does set new all-time highs. You can see what happened in the previous cycle. The previous all-time high before that, it was taken out, but look what happened after that. It did another, what is that, maybe a 3x after the previous cycle high. So even if it just hits the previous all-time highs, that's already a nice achievement. It's still a decent amount higher than where we currently are, but I would expect us to go a bunch higher. Now, that previous cycle top was about 3 trillion. So imagine that this time we do a 1.5x, we're looking at 4.5 trillion somewhere up here. If we do a 2x, we're looking at 6 trillion somewhere up here. Is that achievable? Yes or no? I mean, only time is going to tell. But based on what has been happening previously in previous cycles, as long as the trend is bullish, as long as the cycle continues, then we are looking at potentially still a lot of upside in the next 6 to 12 months in crypto. Now, before we wrap this up, let's take a look at the complete price history and based on the 4-year halving cycle of what has been happening in Bitcoin. So Bitstamp, this is a weekly chart, log scale to make it easier. The vertical lines here are the previous Bitcoin halvings. And as you can see, the price action leading into the halving followed by the massive previous bull markets that we've had in, so after 2012, after 2016, and after 2020. And you can see here, this was 12 months of massive pump after the halving. This was 18 months and this was 18 months. So we have just had the halving in April, so a little bit less than 2 months ago. And if this is going to repeat one more time, who knows if it will, only we'll be able to see in hindsight if that is the case. But even if we get 12 months, then we're looking at massive potential upside into April of next year. Even if we get 6 months post-halving, we could be looking at a massive blow-off top into the end of the year, maybe October, November, December, as it did also in 2017. So you can see, if you remember over here in 2017, this peaked basically in December of 2017. So are we getting a repeat here that is similar to 2017, this cycle? Is that something that we could see play out? So are we going to get something like this, that's 2017, into maybe the end of the year? Maybe everything goes nuts and we see a massive melt up in the charts. That is maybe still a possibility. Keep in mind, we follow an if-then framework. So if the trend is bullish on the higher time frame, if the price stays above the 3-day 50 moving average, then the trend is bullish and we're expecting higher, and we just continue to follow that trend. We don't know how high it's going to go. Is it going to go $85,000 Bitcoin, 100,000, 120,000, 150,000? Maybe there's a banking crisis and everything flows into Bitcoin and it goes nuts and we see Bitcoin go to $200,000 this cycle. Everything is still a possibility as long as the price stays above the 3-day 50 moving average. If we lose the 3-day 50 moving average, then I start to flip bearish until once again we regain it. So it's a very easy if-then strategy, easy criteria to follow. Right now we're still bullish, we're still holding that 3-day 50 moving average at 60,000, and the expectation is simply higher. So let's see how high it is going to go. Hopefully you are positioned, and that doesn't mean you need to be in leverage positions. It doesn't mean you need to be 100x long on every single trade. You can simply be holding spot. Keep in mind that if this is going to play out in this way, if Bitcoin is going to go to 100,000 or more, and we are going to get a repeat of the 4-year cycle, then there is going to be a lot of upside chance for altcoins where we can see them do 5x or 10x or maybe 20x or more, which means that simply just being positioned with risk capital in spot is already a way to be able to make huge potential upside. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to my channel, follow my page on Instagram if you want to get more updates. And if you have any comments, feel free to let me know down below. Leave a comment, let us know your thoughts. What do you think of this cycle? And I will see you in the next video.